Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
We were talking earlier about divisions in the Conservative Party over Europe, but of course they're not the only party to have a split over a fundamental issue. Yesterday, Jeremy Corbyn addressed thousands at a rally for the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament in London, where he condemned Trident. It's a long-standing position. It's a nuclear weapon, though, that his party still officially supports. Our Adam was there.
They reckon it's the biggest anti-nuclear weapons march for a generation, which means it's like the Oscars for people with causes.
PCS Union is one of the Civil Service Union. Matt Sawatki, General Secretary, one of the few unions against Trident. Instead of for Trident, we're against it.
We're giving free food like for the people. We're from Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. Not make weapons, make food for like people.
Obviously, we're here to draw attention to the links between nuclear power and nuclear weapons. And this country shouldn't have gone in for either of them, but now's the chance to get out of both of them.
It says the only good bomb is a Jaeger bomb.
Well, you might disagree the next morning.
I don't know. I still think I'll be having a better time than anyone who's had to experience Trident. So.
Also there, Green MP Caroline Lucas, the leader of Plaid Cymru, and the First Minister of Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon. This lady had an amazing knitted Jeremy Corbyn, but the big draw was the man himself, who's devoted his whole adult life to this stuff.
Many of us have marched for many years and met for many years, with the view that we bring about a peaceful world by arguing peacefully for it, putting forward the logical alternatives and showing to people the horror of war and the total horror of nuclear weapons should they ever be used by anybody.
A lot of Jeremy Corbyn's party agree with him. A new survey of Labour members published this week showed that more than 2/3 of them want to scrap Trident. The issue is, quite a lot of Labour MPs and trade unions don't think that way.
We think he'd have something better to do than be along there with the leaders of the SNP, Plaid Cymru and the Green Party. Whereas there was a conference only a couple of days ago with the GMB union, who represent the workers in the shipyards, who were proud of their skills, worried about their future, want that sorted out quickly. That's a message very strong and loud and clear from them to David Cameron and to Jeremy Corbyn.
This week, the Labour branch of the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament was criticised too, after publishing a fact file that appeared to compare Trident with World War II gas chambers.
I think that alluding to the gas chambers in this context is utterly grotesque. I mean, the truth is the gas chambers were never a form of deterrent. They were never a method of war. They weren't legitimate back in the 40s or any time. They were about genocide, about trying to wipe a race of people off the face of the earth. And to sort of compare those with the discussion that we're having here about a nuclear deterrent, as I say, I think is utterly grotesque.
The task of clearing it all up falls to the Shadow Defence Secretary, Emily Thornberry, who's reviewing party policy. Although that might not be done before the Commons has to vote on renewing the Trident submarines later this year.
Our Adam reporting from yesterday's big CND demo. Now, yesterday was meant to be Labour's day of campaigning in for the European Union. But Mr. Corbyn went to this big CND rally. That's what's been in the news, broadcast and print. Discuss.
Well, you say two things. One, in his heart of hearts, it's not so much that Jeremy Corbyn doesn't want Britain to be in the European Union. He doesn't really want the European Union to exist. He thinks it's sort of part of the global, liberal, capitalist sort of conspiracy. And you heard him in the TV debates in the leadership contest. He doesn't really like the EU, but he's got himself boxed into a corner, so he has to pretend that he does like the European Union.
I was told he toyed at one stage during the leadership campaign of coming out against Britain's membership.
Yes, I mean, in the leadership campaign, he made some very, very tortured remarks. And I remember going to his campaign in the middle of August and saying, please, can you clarify what his thinking is? And then there was this sort of slightly awkward statement that was issued in which he said he would campaign from reform within. And then a few weeks later, in the final TV debate, in the Sky TV debate, he was really, really harsh against the European Union. No, he doesn't really like it, but he's boxed into a corner, because for Jeremy Corbyn there are more important battles, and the more important battle for him is Trident. He has been a member of the CND since 1966, and that's what he thinks.
He's been entirely consistent on that, and I would suggest that he's trying to outflank the Parliamentary Labour Party. He doesn't go to their meetings very often now. There's one tomorrow. We'll see if he goes to that. And he wants to get the membership, this new membership in the country behind him, maybe even the party conference behind him, and that's how he'll get his way.
I think that's absolutely right. If you talk to figures in the Labour Party, what they will say privately is this is not actually about Trident, although there's no doubting Jeremy Corbyn's sincere beliefs on that. A lot of this is about control of the Labour Party. I think the problem for Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party as a whole is this reinforces the impression of a party that is talking to itself. Now, of course, all parties in opposition need to do that to some extent, but with a view to renewing and coming out stronger, and that is not going to be the outcome of this very divisive debate.
What's your thoughts on this?
It's a typically Corbynite thing to do because it's more focused on transforming the internal character of the Labour Party than on a policy outcome. He can't seriously believe this country is not going to renew Trident. Even if we were not to renew Trident, he can't seriously believe that all the other nuclear powers would do something similar. What matters most to him and some of the people around him is redefining what the Labour Party is, perhaps permanently. And it is an absolute catastrophe, this, for the party. It's not as if the political problem only kicks in if he successfully changes party policy on nuclear weapons. Just having the debate on Trident is a problematic thing in and of itself. Well, and it was balmy enough in the 80s, and to do it now, when the number of nuclear powers is higher, the number of them who are rational is lower, I think will strike voters as very curious.
Let's hope he goes to the PLP tomorrow, because it's always fun when he does. Speaking of fun, the American presidential elections wend their long way through in the nominating process. Yesterday was the Democratic primary in South Carolina. Mrs. Clinton won against Bernie Sanders by a landslide. This is what she said after her victory.
Despite what you hear, we don't need to make America great again. America has never stopped being great. But we do need to make America whole again. Instead of building walls, we need to be tearing down barriers.
Hillary Clinton in South Carolina. They move on to Super Tuesday on this coming Tuesday, March the 1st. Now, I would suggest the significance of that is twofold. One, that's a woman who thinks she's won the nomination now, and she probably has. And secondly, she's turning her attention not to Bernie Sanders now, but to Donald Trump, Make America Great Again. That's his campaign slogan. So she thinks she'll be up against Trump come the general election.
Well, all the indications are that she has definitely won the Democratic nomination. Marco Rubio can conceivably win the Republican nomination, but it would now probably have to take quite a circuitous route, maybe go to the convention floor when the convention happens.
Which it hasn't done even in my lifetime.
And if it were to happen, you can imagine how poisonous that would be within the party and how undermined he would be as a candidate. So I think it will be Hillary Clinton versus someone, probably Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump. And I think the thing I take away from it is that as farcical as Trump is, as much of a blowhard as he is, as crazy as this primary campaign has been, it shows that a country can succeed despite its politics. And America arguably has been doing that for decades.
In the Texas debate, Republican primary debate there, Mr. Trump didn't do so well. He was attacked on two sides from Mr. Rubio, Mr. Cruz. He, of course, is the junior senator for Texas. So although Trump must still be the favorite, he's not yet the shoo-in. He's not yet the unstoppable favorite that Mrs. Clinton, I think, has become.
He's not unstoppable, and make no mistake, there are many within the party machine who would like to stop him. I mean, there could be well be a very aggressive operation to stop him becoming the.
So far, it hasn't worked.
Hasn't gone very far. I think there's an important point to make about Trump from a kind of global point of view. We sit here and say what a terrifying prospect he would be, but remember, he's not going to be a democratically elected dictator if he ends up as president. Congress will have a great deal of power to fetter him. Even if he wants to build that wall, he will have to get a vote through, and that would be very unlikely.
You can still, as president, do a lot of damage, even if Congress is against you. You are a rather
But the thing is that Senator Rubio has finally got a good line of attack against Donald Trump. If you had not got that $200 million from your father, you'd be selling watches in Times Square, and you think that's a good line. But it's only 2 weeks ago that Marco Rubio was duffed up by Governor Christie, who now obviously has endorsed Donald Trump. But you know what's interesting about this?
He doesn't like Senator Rubio, does he?
He doesn't like him. You know what's interesting about this? President Obama said the other day, I'm absolutely convinced that the American people will not vote for Donald Trump as president. And you must assume he's right. But you know what? We've learned two things about Hillary Clinton in 2008 and this time round. She would probably make an excellent president, but she is a deeply flawed candidate. And you do assume that she should beat Trump as the Republican nominee, but we've seen some real flaws in her as a candidate, and maybe he'd manage to beat her.
Well, this could be, though, the Republicans' lost opportunity. There is no Democratic front-runner since Mr. McGovern, Senator McGovern in 1972, with bigger negatives than Hillary Clinton. But the White House is convinced that if it's Trump v. Clinton, Mrs. Clinton wins.
Yeah, I've always wondered where Hillary Clinton's very grand and impressive reputation comes from, because from an outsider's perspective, the two big bullet points on her CV were messing up Hillary Care in 1993-4, which caused the Republican...
Was the health reform, right?
And it provoked a Republican clean sweep in the Congress. And the second was blowing a 20-point lead over Barack Obama in the end of 2007 in the primary campaign. And she was an okay Secretary of State, but nothing world-changing. To have the reputation she does as a very grand, all-conquering figure on the basis of that career seems overdone.
We need to live there. Keep your eye on Texas on Super Tuesday. If Mr. Cruz can't win that, he's finished. Florida on the 15th of March. If Senator Rubio can't win that, and Trump does, and he's ahead in the polls, Senator Rubio's finished.